I suppose we have to talk about it because on this episode of Monday Night Raw, Sami Zayn won a match with the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb. The Netflix era has most definitely arrived. Now we shall get into this properly later, but given that everybody got in touch with me on social media, here's my stance on it right now on this day. Two times the Blue Thunder Bomb has won a match in WWE in recent memory. I mean, there was that Sami Zayn versus AJ Styles match, which I think was on a Saudi Arabia pay-per-view. So don't you come into my house and tell me that this isn't the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment. I mean, that's like me telling you I'm not bald, I just lack hair. So here is the deal. Given that I did want to introduce some brand new counters in 2025, boom, look how majestic it is. It'll be somewhere on the screen. It is indeed the Blue Thunder Bomb Victory Counter, or the BTBVC. Sounds a bit like a disease. And of course, we put a 1 on it, but now, that's right, throughout this 12-month period, we can run the gambit and see how successful this maneuver is. Also, hello, welcome to Ups and Downs, which is a wrestling review show with me, Simon Miller. And I tell you, we have begun off the rails. CM Punk then pulled up to the building on Monday Night Raw and honked his horn. That is absolutely not a euphemism. Even on Netflix, I don't think you can do that on television. He also put on some Jey Uso sunglasses that he got from somebody in the crowd, which I thought was very nice. And seriously, this man was so over. And you'd have to presume that one day he will turn heel. Kids are going to be very sad. Punk was also super duper happy because he had defeated Seth Rollins last week, which means he can now forget about this guy and focus on the Royal Rumble, which has always been a dream of his. He wants to win it and go on to WrestleMania. Also, he wants to forget about last year's Royal Rumble, because that's when his tricep injury happened. Now, CM Punk did drop in John Cena here, because he was like, well, he's declared for the Rumble, so yes, I'm declaring for the Rumble too. And listen, on my bold predictions video, I said that I think it could be Punk and Cena as the final two in that match. And given that I'm always wrong, well, my confidence just went up a little bit. This Rumble is also stacked with stars. It's almost silly. And the highlight here is when CM Punk was done, he said, play my music. And instead, Seth Rollins' theme played instead, meaning he must have been by the production guy going, do it now. Now, he walked out with a massive black eye, so I think he did get tagged with that GTS last week, and he said, hey, yeah, I did lose, but as I told you, I've turned up on Raw, and let's face it, if you had been the guy who got defeated, you probably wouldn't have shown up. He also dropped the line that he would rather be the worst version of Seth Rollins than the best version of CM Punk. And I was like, man, that's like a machine that I should invent, because I would like to tell people, do you want to go into this thing and see if that rings true? I don't know what we're talking about. Rollins also admitted the loss he suffered last week was the worst of his career and he's disappointed in himself. So I guess he's pondered on this for the last 7 days and he has decided the best way to get over this is revenge. So he is going to stop CM Punk from winning the Rumble and going to WrestleMania. And how is he going to do that? Because flapping Seth Rollins is in the Rumble too. I then laughed out loud because the truth teller Drew McIntyre interrupted as this segment got totally out of control. And he was all like, oh man, you're disgusting and you're sick and I hate you. And obviously Punk thought he was talking about him. And he said, last time we met, I do believe you were on the floor begging for mercy. When Drew was like, I'm not talking to you, you Poindexter. Seth, I'm mad at you. And this is because McIntyre is disappointed in Seth, because once again, he is all talk. Also, let's jump back to last week's Raw. You were so obsessed with your match against CM Punk. Did you do anything when Roman Reigns was running wild? No, because again, you talk a big game, but you say nothing. This really is why McIntyre is the best too, because again, everything that comes out of his mouth, you're like, man, you make a good point, but he just does it in the worst way, when he also reminded Rollins, oh yeah, and at the end of the day, did you even get the win? No, you didn't. Punk was definitely ready to throw down, but Drew was like, I'm not going to do that here, because there's more important things going on. I mean, maybe he'd heard about the Blue Thunder Bomb. McIntyre then called himself the reluctant hero, which is why he too is going to enter the Royal Rumble to stop Roman Reigns. And honestly, Drew is an inspiration, man. He has a one-track mind, and he is going to achieve his goals no matter what it takes. So this was just so good, and they all feel like megastars. And again, they are all in the Royal Rumble. And be it any of these people, or a John Cena, or whoever else has gone, oh, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble, they could actually win. Like, you can make an argument for it. And believe you me, there have been Rumbles in the past where you just go, it's that guy. It turns out to be that guy. I then myself are going to be that guy. I'm not going to win the Royal Rumble, but I am casually going to throw in there, this was way better than nearly anything that happened on last week's episode of Raw. I am giving it a massive up. We then saw a lot of people arriving at the building, and thank goodness for that. Otherwise, I'd have been like, well, I guess the wrestlers didn't even bother to turn up for work. when not only did we get the best debut of 2025 so far, it could turn out to be the best debut of the year. For Chad Gable did come to the ring and say, yes, I do want my shot at one of the best luchadors in the world, and also said he will win a singles title in 2025 when we did get the arrival in WWE of Penta. This was totally fabu. Now I laughed and I almost died because Michael Cole did shout during his entrance, it's the worst kept secret in wrestling. It's like, it wasn't a secret. Last week on Raw, there was a giant video with his face, and underneath it said, Penta. What was I meant to think? I mean, the equivalent of that is, hey Brad, yep, do you know that I wear a wig? Oh my gosh, what a secret! Nobody does that. Apart from people on Facebook. Penta's presentation and entrance, though, were totally electric, and let's be honest, before he even got to the ring, he felt like a megastar. I'm not going to get into all this AEW didn't treat him right either. Why do you think he felt like such a big deal? Because he just jumped from All Elite Wrestling, and I'm not saying that couldn't have been handled better. I'm not saying that he didn't deserve a bigger push, but it was his run in AEW that helped here. This is why it's great for us fans to have two major competing companies. So given that it is us that benefits, I just think we need to chill out, man, and enjoy it for what it is. And again, it was Chad Gable versus Penta, a match I did not think I was ever going to see, and they totally cooked the eggs. What? You can also already buy a Penta mask for the low price of $75, but let's not pretend otherwise. Not only is WWE gonna sell out of those, but Mr. Pentagon is gonna make a lot of money. And yes, sure, look, at one point Penta went a little bit wiggly jiggly on a springboard leg drop. He was probably a little bit nervous, and the rest of the match was just brilliant, especially when I tell you, Penta gave Chad Gable a Hurricane Rana and followed up with a Canadian Destroyer, which you rarely see in WWE. But Chad Gable sold this like he was dead. I'm going to clap for this for the rest of my life. We also got a German suplex on the ring apron and Chad just throwing Penta into the ring post. Welcome to the company. And of course, the whole time Penta was doing his Zero Merdo taunt. And I may actually start counting these every single week because I tell you, he got at least 8 out just matching that D-pad. He also did the snap arm breaker, which the crowd reacted massively to when he hit the Penta driver and got the 1, 2, 3. And honestly, I love it when people call moves after themselves. It's like the shortest meeting ever. Should I just use my name and then add driver to it? Bingo. We even made sure the masked man had some promo time and he said, listen, I'm so happy that everyone is happy that I'm here, but you know who is the happiest of all? Me. He also spoke in Spanish, which this crowd loved, and man, his family were in the front row and they were just crying. So I actually think this was the best part of all of it. It felt real and he was just melting with emotion. It's pretty damn special. I also think he may have called this the Penta era. Don't do that because it sounds like medication. Penta era may cause side effects. But I thought this was an absolute joy, and again, in around about 12 minutes, we absolutely have somebody we can push as a mega big deal. Really, when you do break it right down, I love Penta and Lucha Underground, I loved him in AEW, and I love him here. And it's just a dude changing jobs. It just may so happen to be a job where he goes into the stars. So you really should go and watch this, and I'm not going to give it an up, I'm going to give it a golden up. And it's kind of a weird golden up too, like I popped massively when he did have his entrance, but it was just more about the feelings that were coming out of his tum-tum. I felt the human side of Penta, and as cool as he is as like a comic book character, that is where the secret sauce is. All of this is very good. The Judgment Day then continued to self-combust because we went to the back and Finn Balor was like, Liv Morgan, I'm sure you'll be champion again one day. I don't think he meant it. Morgan fired back because she was like, well, at least I took a piece out of Rhea Ripley and you haven't done much of anything. And of course, Liv was joined by Raquel. I wear sunglasses now because I'm a heel. Dominic Mysterio eventually walked in and he had some flowers for Liv Morgan. This is a very good point because do not forget, last week, as soon as she had lost, he tried to hug Rhea Ripley, so he really is scum. Morgan acted like she wasn't annoyed, and if you did believe that, I have a wonderful Ponzi scheme to sell you, and you could put all your money in my bank account when she essentially threw the flowers at Carlito as her as Raquel checked out. Bless this Dom as well. He was like, great, it's all gonna be fine. Finn Balor basically facepalmed, was like, dude, you've got a lot to learn. So all of that was really good when we cut to Kathy Kelly, who was interviewing the Pure Fusion Collective. But honestly, somebody must have clued them up, because now we're only referring to them as the PFC. It's not totally ideal though, because now they sound like a product from QVC. They told the roster they should watch their backs though, otherwise they will do to them what they did to Kairi Sane. This goes for SmackDown too, because the transfer window is open. I'm sure Leicester are terrified. I think at one point they all promised to be the Intercontinental Champion too, which would be interesting. That would be a fun gimmick. Which of you is the IC champ? then they all just go yes. When we got an absolute banger and flubbed me sideways, I love these two. 3 was Sheamus versus Ludwig. Bowser is my dad, Kaiser. And honestly, if you haven't listened to Sheamus on Chris Van Vliet's Insight podcast, you should go and do that. Because if you didn't love him before, you most definitely gonna love him after. Ludwig is the best too because he has that wonderful walk as he does come to the ring. And as soon as the bell went ding, 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 they just started punching each other right in the face. Like one of these strikes, I was like, I don't think he understands what wrestling is. Kaiser actually got the better of this for a little while when he went and got the shillelagh. Surely this has to be offensive because he's only doing this because Sheamus is Irish. Like if he was fighting, I don't know, Brad Jones, you wouldn't go and get a shillelagh, you just use a normal chair. So it's no surprise Sheamus got out the way and booted him in the face. Somehow that hit Ludwig's go button though, because all of a sudden he turned this around on Sheamus when Sheamus noticed, woohoo, my meter is full. He hit the bro kick finish, 1, 2, 3. Sheamus also saw Bron Breakker in the crowd and they got into it, and we are doing that match at Saturday Night's main event. And I have a feeling we may continue to tease this until WrestleMania, when finally Sheamus completes his championship collection puzzle. Either way though, any combination of these three has been so good over the last couple of months, and yet I'm still not bored of it. That's a massive pat on their backs. Up. Seth Rollins then found out that he'll be taking on Drew McIntyre next week, which is a WrestleMania rematch, so that is totally huge. When Sami Zayn decided he was just going to walk in. Now he had seen everything that Seth had said earlier, and he was like, listen, I am your friend, and I'm always there for you. I was like, Zayn, that is not true at all. It's been a week, it's been 7 days. Go and talk to Craig David. You couldn't have texted this guy? Come on. Now Rollins admitted that he was down when, man, he fired all the shade on Sami. He was like, I bet you're well happy because your boy Roman Reigns got the Ula Fala back. Why don't you go give him a hug? It really was so immature and childish, but Seth then brought up War Games and was like, what are you going to do when he wins the championship? Party on down. And actually, it's one of those situations again where you can describe Sami as the good guy and Seth as the bad guy, but really, Rollins was making a very good point. We also kind of teased that maybe Sami himself should be focused on winning a WWE title, and we're going to get more of that later, so I do believe the seeds have been planted. This version of Seth Rollins is so good though, because once again he's got a chip on his shoulder, but he is correct, why did Sami Zayn go and be so nice to Roman Reigns, but never thought to check in on Mr. Seth? So these relationships totally rule because they feel real. When we cut to Jackie Redmond, she was talking to JD McDonough on Carlito. Now, there's a good chance you didn't see this, because as I did find out, in the ad breaks, the Americans get something different than us UKians, which is not a thing. So look, if you didn't see it, I promise you it did happen. Or maybe I just made it up. Basically, though, she wanted to know about the drama between Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, and Finn Balor. And JD was like, you're a spin doctor. Stop trying to be TMZ. Nothing's going on. Carlito also came up with a great strategy, because he was like, well, if we just ignore you, nothing can happen. When we cut to Karrion Kross and The Miz. And this came out of nowhere, because Karrion was like, man, the Wyatt Six have been moved to SmackDown. Miz, are you responsible for this? I was like, dude, you know who Adam Pearce is. Go and talk to him. Also, surely you can just go to SmackDown because the damn transfer window is open. And Miz was like, of course I didn't do anything. When in walked Sami Zayn. Because Karrion Kross and The Miz are absolute assholes, they were all like, it is Sami Zayn, the man that can't win a world title. And as The Miz put it too, I've won 2 of these, and let me do the maths for you. Oh, it's a big fat 0. Of course, it meant they now had to have a match later, and Karrion made it very clear, Miz, I am not going to help you. What a crappy friend. Obafemi was then shown in the crowd, and listen, I think this is the first time we've been able to talk about him on main roster ups and downs, so when he does get called up to Raw and SmackDown, you push the hell out of him, and you make him the world champion. Look into my crazy eyes, I am not joking, I am serious. When the ultimate troll was here, finally Gunther was back on Raw properly. And this guy is so good because he talked about last week's show, and he was like, yes, from a production standpoint, it was brilliant. But in terms of the in-ring action, totally disappointing. It made him sad because while the rest of the roster tries to reach these expectations when it comes to their wrestling, they're not able to. And that's because only the Ring General is able to pull this off. That's why he's a champ. He also took shots because he said, listen, everybody else is obsessed with being the head of the table or with being the best in the world, but I don't care about that. I just care about winning matches and again, winning titles. And seriously, that was basically a shot at Roman Reigns and CM Punk. I've talked about this before, and I think it's coming. Especially the Roman Reigns match, I have made my prediction. Somebody was always going to interrupt, and it was Jey Uso. Honestly, the pop for this guy, even I rocketed out of my chair, he is over. He also totally understands how wrestling works, because he'd gone through the rule book and gone, I can pull out wrestling trope 457. So he said to Gunther, I am done with Drew, I am done with Bloodline, Geese title shot. That's right, he has asked Gunther to put his championship on the line. Now, it does explain why he beat Drew McIntyre last week, but he did have a date, which is Saturday night's main event too, even though it's most definitely not the second Saturday night's main event. Gunther was like, well, that's great to hear, you are very funny and you are entertaining, but you can't beat me. And in fact, when we wrestled for the Intercontinental title, you lost twice. He also took a shot at the fact he's got the main event Jey Uso tagline, because again, that's just the moniker, when he was like, listen, let's make this very clear. You are a great tag team wrestler, that's it. Shots fired. It really is the way that Gunther delivers his lines too, because it's just like they are statements of fact, when he kind of conceded, you know what, I do need some warm-up matches, so fine, I'll take you on. Fair play to Jey Uso though, because when he responded, he went totally nuts and he shouted at Gunther, oh man, nobody has ever given me respect, even though I try and people say, oh, he shouldn't be the top merch seller, and I am, and he shouldn't be the top of the card, and I am, so you know what, I am going to take you on at that sort of pay-per-view, not really, and I'll beat the respect into you. I was like, damn it, Jey, do it. Even though obviously he's not. Now that is the only real shame of this, in the sense there is going to be no jeopardy in the match, because Jey Uso is not going to become the world heavyweight champion on a random Saturday night's main event, but it just works in the sense he's a mega babyface, and I would call Gunther a mega heel, but he just adapts. Like, Gunther is just Gunther, and the way that you react to him, well, it all depends on who he's fighting. We do have all these shows to fill though, so you may as well do something like this, and I am going to give it an up. However, given what did happen here, and given something that happens later too, I am going to give it a down, because you can't get round it. It's still a man walking out going, yeah, I really would like to fight for that belt. Someone else going, well, I don't think you're worthy, but we'll do it anyway. And I know all wrestling companies do this, but WWE has proven they're the masters of stories at the moment, but needs must. So it's a tiny down, but still down. Shout out to Michael Cole as well, who accidentally insulted Jey Uso, because he was like, damn, if Jey does win that belt, it will be his first singles WWE championship in WWE, obviously. I was like, that's right, Intercontinental title be damned. I get it. He just made a mistake. No one works harder than him. It doesn't matter. I still chuckled. We then got a great video for the finals of the IC tournament, because we were about to get Lyra Valkyria versus Dakota Kai. When Bayley was in the crowd, I was like, I can't even remember what show she's actually on. SmackDown. She put over the rival of Penta though and said that Lyra and Dakota were going to have a great match. And she also promised to beat Tiffany Stratton's ass on Friday. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to assume this happened during the ad break as well, and I will say that WWE has gone totally Cyndi Lauper with these, in the sense just let the wrestlers have fun. I quite enjoy them when we got to the finals of the IC tournament. Lyra Valkyria, Dakota Kai, they had a terrific match. Now, it only went for around about 10 minutes, and I do understand that could be a little bit short, but what they did to compensate is they just went go, go, go. So there was no time for sitting on your hands, there was no time for rest periods. This was just like a ball of fire. Sometimes that just works. Lyra also suplexed Dakota on the floor, and she honestly made a splat sound. And I think Kai was so offended, she got back to her feet, and yep, she booted Valkyria right in the face. Once again, though, this was just wrestling tennis, so Lyra came back with the sit-out bomb of power, and she only got a 1-2 ooh. But yeah, we'll use the phrase again, they were cooking. Valkyria also got the axe kick off the rope to get a 1-2 ooh, when I think Dakota Kai was just so enraged. She got the big stomp, she got the big kick when she hit the GTK, whatever the flub she calls her finisher, and man, she could have pinned Lyra, but Valkyria rolled out of the ring. And I told you this was going to be spammed throughout 2025. It is being used more than a super kick. The thing is, though, it has totally worked because the crowd audibly groaned here. They understood the story. And man, when these two got back in the ring, they hit this sling blade and they just crushed into each other. I think it must have flattened Dakota Kai because Lyra then grabbed her. She hit the Nightwing. You ain't gonna believe this unless you've already seen the show. She got the 1-2-3. Lyra Valkyria, your first ever women's intercontinental champion. No, I won't lie, I popped for this, although I would have popped for Dakota Kai too, because both of them just had terrific journeys. But if we are talking about Lyra Valkyria, who got called up from NXT last year, I tell you, man, this is gonna be a game changer. It really is the reason it worked as well, because both of these people have been searching for opportunities, and they most definitely earned them. And now they got it here, and they were both hugging and being happy for each other afterwards. So let's make sure we continue these feuds, and let's make sure we continue to shine a spotlight on those who do deserve it. It is absolutely getting it up. When I'm given a down out of nowhere, it's a super lame down too, so you better prepare yourself. But Kathy Kelly was chatting to the New Day, and as ever, they are so damn great. That's when it hit me in the tum-tum. Now they still hate Rey Mysterio, and Kofi Kingston's mother still isn't talking to them. But I was like, why are they in another backstage skit? They should be having matches, or we should be taking them and throwing them through the roof, because do not forget at the end of 2024, and I mean this from the bottom of my Tootsie Toes, they were involved in one of the best heel turns ever. I just don't think we have capitalized on that enough, although we did learn during this that the New Day will be having a match next week, and thank Flubbins for that. And also, just as she wanted to ask another question, Xavier turned the gimmick on her because he said, oh, I'm sorry, we out of time. So this is me holding WWE to task a little bit. I'm sure they're absolutely terrified that some bald YouTuber is doing that, but that's just how I felt. And even though they did kind of rectify this during the segment, I just want more time for the New Day. And yeah, I want them to be involved in like some kind of mega story because they do have all the power at the moment, but power is nothing without using it. I don't know what that means. Talk to He-Man. I am giving it a stupid down. When, yes, here we are, my life and ups and downs will never be the same again. Or I'll totally be proven right. This is tense. But yes, it was The Miz versus Sami Zayn, and after Sami had hit the haluva kick, he did indeed smack him with the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb. And did it work? Well, yes. Yes, it did. So we shall bring it back just to remind you, there it is, the BTBVC, whatever the flub I called it, and it goes up to 1, but now at the end of the year, we can finally prove this right, or if they do prove me wrong, I will retire that stupid catchphrase forever. Stakes. Don't pretend I'm not alone either, because when he did do this, Michael Cole was like, oh my gosh, he just won a match with the Blue Thunder Bomb. So we all understand, otherwise this made all the sense in the world, Sami Zayn does need some wins, because I think he's about to go on quite the journey up. When we just got the craziest segment ever. Like, I could have guessed this till the cows come home, and I wouldn't have come up with it. Now, bravo to WWE for ensuring that Rhea Ripley did get a big old ceremony here, kinda, because she came out to celebrate with her brand new women's title, and of course, everybody went nuts. She's a massive star. She also did her whole mummy is back and I'm Rhea bloody Ripley, and this made sense as well because of course WWE is still hoping new fans are tuning in, so you should tell them, hello, I am Rhea Ripley and I'm a damn big deal. This is where the first shock happened because Nia Jax interrupted. And I started fiddling with my remote, which isn't true because I watch this on my phone, because it is on Netflix, but I was like smashing the screen. I thought I was watching the wrong program. Now, of course, it's all thanks to the transfer window, and actually this was pretty good, because she was like, oh, hi, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. When I win the Royal Rumble, maybe I'll go after Tiffany Stratton, but also, Rhea, it means if I want, I can go after you. So essentially, this was exposition. You also saw Bayley in the crowd, so she was like, well, I may as well yell at you too, which she did do, when Bayley broke all the rules, because technically she had a ticket, so she was a fan, but she jumped over Barry Barricade and she got in the ring. Do not try this at home. Obviously, what would you even be doing? It was really funny though, because she called Nia Jax an idiot, so Nia just pushed her to the ground. It's like, that is the most real thing I've ever seen in wrestling. That's what you do. Essentially, Jax and Rhea then got into it with a headbutt battle when Bayley helped Ripley throw her out of the ring. When we kind of got a little bit of a tug of war over the belt, when Bayley became Gollum, because even though she was celebrating with Rhea Ripley, she couldn't stop looking at her patch. So that surely is a tease that we may be doing Rhea Ripley versus Bayley soon, and I've got no issues with that, because even if they have fought before, I can't remember it, and it feels fresh. That's the secret sauce of pro wrestling. Keep giving me new things. There really was just something about this, though, that felt so weird. And it wasn't just that SmackDown had come to Raw, but again, Rhea just had won the championship, and I think we should have pulled the trigger on a mega big feud. And that could be Bayley, but we know she's taking on Tiffany Stratton first. So at the moment, you kind of have to stand there and do the shrug emoji. You could also make the argument, well, if everybody was interrupting, why didn't Liv Morgan interrupt? Now listen, I don't think we should go back to that feud, but where the flub did she go? So really, when you do break it down like D-Generation X, this was my major takeaway, just kind of feel like we can do more. I mean, Ripley is one of the biggest stars that WWE has. When you look at a Cody Rhodes or a Roman Reigns, we're always diving into the big stuff. Why don't we do it for her too? If nothing else though, it does go back to what we talked about earlier. If anything, this was leaning into Gee's title shot. Like, we weren't using narratives and angles to make you, oh my gosh, they are gonna fight. It's mostly because somebody was like, oh man, You've got a pretty belt and I want it. So yes, I am going to give that part a down because I am just repeating myself, but I think there's levels to this and we can level it up massively. But I am going to say, Rhea's overall aura, to use a 2025 word, and basically everything that Nia Jax and Bayley did, it all worked. So I am going to give it an up. But hey man, I've got high standards, which isn't true, but it is true sometimes. And this is how I felt as well. I can't help that. I don't control my brain. It's a bit of a worry. Rey Mysterio then said he was really proud of Penta, but he thinks the New Day sucks. When we got to our main event, when we did put to bed the end of this Judgment Day feud, it's Finn Balor versus Damien Priest in a street fight, and it was damn entertaining. Priest walked to the ring with a kendo stick too. I was like, well, thank goodness for that. That makes way more sense than finding underneath the ring. When Finn Balor came out with a kendo stick as well and just smacked Damien from behind. Now, this is when Pat McAfee just called it a stick. I was like, Pat, you cannot call it just a stick. There has to be some blind fans that are watching wrestling. They're going to think he went to a tree and smacked Damien Priest with a twig. He's tougher than that. Priest was still able to flatline Balor right onto a table as they just smashed the shit out of each other with trash cans. And of course, what did the fans do? We want tables. And I bet that bin felt really sad. Now the highlight has to be after they fought off into the crowd because my gosh, they were standing on a box-like structure when Damien Priest gave the Falcon Arrow to Finn Balor through a table. And again, there's no point me trying to explain it. You need to see it with your eyes. It looked totally brutal. We sold this huge as well because the medical team came out, and not only did they put Finn Balor in a neck brace, but they stretched him out of there. And even Carlito and JD McDonald were like, well done, Damien, you killed him. Now, Priest did again, because I kid you not, he grabbed the stretcher and he rolled it down the aisleway and Finn went flying into the ring. I was like, man, we gotta put respect on these people's names. This is when JD and Carlito were like, oh yeah, we are allowed to get involved because it is a no DQ. Only took them about 8 minutes and eventually Finn Balor hit the coup de grace. But of course, Damo kicked out the 1-2-0. The word then must have gone to the War Raiders because they ran out to get rid of the Judgment Day, which meant we were back to one-on-one. And these two dudes kept escalating. Because I swear, at one point, Finn whooped Damien Priest with this chair, when he also sat him on the sitting device, and he put another chair around his neck. And I have no idea what he was going to do, but he must have got it from a medieval torture device book. Of course, instead, Damien Priest was able to break out of this when he hit the big choke slam. I think he wanted to throw Finn through a table, but instead Balor reversed it, coup de grace through the wood. Because we are booking Damien like a beast, as we should be doing, he then speared Finn Balor through barricade, who honestly must have been on the verge of death. When Priest spied one last table and he thought, you know what, I can probably hit a razor's edge through that, and he did. He wasn't satisfied though, so we got Finn back in the ring, who was all wibbly wobbly. And for no reason he shouted, I am not my brother's keeper. When he hit that big choke slam, he got the 1-2-3. Damien Priest has finally put the Judgment Day to bed. Not literally. What an absolutely great way to end all of this though, and now we should put them on separate bands and just push them to the moon. I mean, even though we did have a winner and loser here, they have all the stock in the world, and honestly, if you're into your street fights, this was a damn good one, and a damn good main event. Which brought us to the end of the second ever Raw on Netflix, and yes, I thought this show was way better than last week just because we got back into the stories and the angles, so I am going to give it an up. Also, it only went 2.5 hours, so I'm just going to say it again. I love the Netflix era. Whatever works is what you should do. Now, of course, please do leave me a comment below and let me know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw, and click the video on the screen, which is my ups and downs for SmackDown, to make sure you check out all my professional wrestling thoughts. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Brothers, my friends, I will see you soon, and I appreciate your time.